Well, with a change in government and the BC NDP's John Horgan currently Premier Designate, it's time to introduce you to BC's very own destroyers. Of course, we are borrowing that term from our amazing best-selling author and Alberta Bureau Chief Sheila Gunn Reid and her incredible book titled The Destroyers. That's the book that brought Albertans and Canadians the truth about who the key figures in Rachel Notley's NDP government would be and how exactly they plan to destroy the tall poppy of Confederation. So I thought we would now do the same here in a video format now that BC is destined for an NDP Green Frankenstein government led by John Horgan. And well, he has already set off to hire many of his own destroyers, especially if his new chief of staff is any early indicator. Meet Geoff Meggs. He will serve as John Horgan's chief chief of staff. Meggs is currently part of the B team of destroyers down at Vancouver City Hall, where he serves on council for Vision Vancouver. Meggs has plenty of experience in destroying this province. After all, he was part of the NDP team that ruled this province in the decade of darkness that was the 1990s. Back then, Meggs was communications director for Premier Glenn Clark. Glenn Clark is best known for the Casino Gate scandal that forced him to resign after he allegedly accepted $10,000 worth of home renovations in exchange for approving casino licenses. The incident played out famously on local evening news when the RCMP paid Clark a visit to his home and TV news cameras caught it all on tape as they were tipped off. Glenn Clark could be seen pacing in his home as the police carried out the raid. And there was Geoff Meggs right there trying to spin some major damage control for the Premier. If you hear that and think, well, Horgan's getting the old band back together from the 1990s, well, you'd be right. But go back even further than the 90s and Geoff Meggs' past is even more concerning. For 12 years, Geoff Meggs was a member of the Communist Party. It's well known he served on the Communist Party's committees and even wrote and edited their newspaper for most of those 12 years. But then Meggs left the Communist Party in the late 1980s, and I suppose the impending collapse of the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall could demoralize any dedicated communist, and Meggs appears to have been no exception. "Those aren't my views anymore," said Meggs. "I had a profound personal difference with the party and quit," unquote. What those differences are, we may never know, because when you look back at Geoff Meggs' time on Vancouver City Council since 2008 until the present, it appears the authoritarian streak and inner communist in Meggs were still around. Vision Vancouver have started to destroy this city under Mayor Robertson, Councillor Meggs, and others. Meggs details in his personal blog that he has expressed his desire to see a vehicle levy to raise money on top of the carbon tax. Meggs also believes in making Vancouver and probably all of British Columbia a sanctuary jurisdiction, and that's something I've reported on here at The Rebel. And then back in 2014, a court petition nearly removed Meggs and fellow Vision Vancouver councillor Carrie Jang from office due to conflict of interest allegations. Then there is Meggs' record in office. Bike lanes everywhere, traffic out of control, the cost of living insane. And Meggs himself even led the charge to ban round doorknobs on all new construction in the city of Vancouver, all in the name of accessibility. And I'm not joking about that one. And of course, as I've reported on, at least one local developer here in the city seemed to get a pretty sweetheart deal in a controversial land swap of city land. And I'm sure that it's only coincidence that since Vision Vancouver came to power, developers are some of their biggest political donors. Which brings me to my next point. Well, will John Horgan and the NDP really ban big money donations from corporations, unions, and wealthy individuals as they promised they would? Because, you know, it's not just Christy Clark and the BC Liberals who do this. Vision Vancouver has done the exact same thing over the years, raising big money just to stay in power here municipally. Just take a look at the big money Meggs and Gregor received ahead of the 2008 election when they took power. Over $650,000 from CUPE, then close to $100,000 from Joel Solomon, also known as Mr. Tides Canada. So if big labor and millionaire environmentalists want to donate to their progressive causes in BC, well, they do, and never mind third-party groups. Look, the hiring of Meggs is not good at all. A former communist with deep ties to the BC NDP destroyers of the 1990s, and a man who is radically opposed to all oil and gas development. A man who has helped ruin the city of Vancouver the last 9 years. But there's a silver lining here. Vancouver residents will have a chance to replace Meggs on council before the next election. It will be the first by-election in Vancouver since 1992, And with so much disdain for Vision Vancouver here in the city, it's imperative that the opposition wins that seat to send Gregor and the rest of the NDP or Vision Vancouver destroyers, that this simply won't last for long. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Geoff Meggs will be the chief destroyer of this province under John Horgan and the NDP, so make sure you keep it locked to Rebel Canada for all your updates.